the other countries do not have an American army present which is under continual armed attack. It's a very different type of agreement. And of course, the reason they're saying this is that they don't want to submit it to Congress, and they also don't want to submit it to a referendum in Iraq. In both cases, it might go down. I think that the candidates, I mean, what strikes me being in Washington is the degree to which America is absorbed in the presidential election, and Iraq has been on far too much on the margins of the news, as if nothing new was developing there, or the situation might be bad, but it's not getting much worse. While these enormously important developments are taking place, which are laying the basis for future violence, for future wars, are not exactly going through on the nod, but they're being smuggled through. Their significance is being downplayed by the U.S. ambassador in Baghdad, by the administration here in Washington. And this is taking place while the whole focus is on the presidential election here.
And how essential is this security agreement for a possible extension of the United Nations mandate in Iraq?
Well, they could extend it 6 months. They could extend it longer. I mean, the United Nations could certainly do this. I don't think there's an enormous problem there, though it leaves lots of issues hanging in the air. I mean, in some ways, bringing up this over the last, initially there was a lack of attention in Iraq to what was happening. Now that there's an explosive reaction as details leak out about this agreement. So there are more Iraqis, say, including in the government party, saying on the record, well, maybe we don't need the Americans at all if our sovereignty is going to be so compromised.
Patrick, could you explain this refusal to lift the UN designation of Iraq as a threat to international security, which started with Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, even though Saddam Hussein has been executed? That makes it easier for claims against Iraq, like particularly from corporations?
Yeah, I mean, there are these series of measures against Iraq which were originally, were enforced in 1990 when Saddam invaded Kuwait, that these have all remained pressures on Iraq over the years. These diminished formal sovereignty has made them vulnerable to legal charges, means they don't quite have control over their own funds. For instance, last year, I mean, theoretically these funds are all controlled by Iraq, but last year the senior Iraqi financial officials told me that they wanted, all these funds are denominated in dollars. The dollar was sinking. The Iraqi finance minister and central bank thought, right, we want to denominate these. We don't want to take the money out of New York. We want to denominate some of it in other currencies, in euros, in gold, or whatever else, which won't lose its value. And the U.S. Treasury said, no, we don't want that, because that'll make the dollar look bad. So they couldn't do it. And they were telling me a month or so ago they thought that this decision by the U.S. Treasury had cost them $5 billion. So this is part of a pattern that you have the U.S. making formal obeisance to Iraqi sovereignty, an independent nation, but in practice having minute control over everything that the Iraqi government does.
Patrick Cockburn, we want to thank you very much for being with us. His brand new book is called Maqtada al-Sadr, The Shia Revival and the Struggle for Iraq. Patrick Cockburn, just recently back from Iraq, has been reporting on Iraq for decades. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Back in a minute.
If I give God my lifetime, He will take care of me. He will never, never let me down. I will give God my lifetime, my life. lifetime. I will give up my lifetime.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting on over 700 stations on Pacifica and NPR and low-power FM and college and community stations, on public access TV and PBS TV stations, and both TV satellite networks. On